This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one.
Hey everyone, Sean Dominski here. This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast. This is the show that gives you all the information you need when buying or selling a house. I'm your host, Sean Dominski, and today I'm sitting down with Andy Fritchey from Pillar to Post Home Inspectors, and we're just talking a little bit about what a home inspection is and why a buyer should choose to have one. So, Andy, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, you.
So what is a home inspection, and when does someone get one?
Yeah, so a home inspection is basically a third-party protective measure just to evaluate the condition and performance of a home so that you are fully informed and aware of whether it's in working order or not, or has any major defects that would be costly or safety items. So you can make a wise and informed decision when making such a large investment such as purchasing a home.
So what exactly is a home inspector? What's the difference between a home inspector and someone who just knows a lot about things?
Yeah, there is a difference. We're trained in all the systems of a home. I mean, a home, if you think about it, is almost like the human body. It's got the skeletal system, right? The structure. It's got the plumbing system, the circulatory system, similar, and nervous system, the electrical, right? And so we are a generalist looking at all of those things. And most people are like, say they're a plumber, they know about houses, but they don't know, they haven't been trained in all of these areas. We have been given this in-depth instruction on how to evaluate all of these and look for signs to see whether or not you need to be referred to a specialist for further evaluation.
Okay, cool. Now, there are associations, just like for real estate agents, you have the National Association of Realtors. Yep. There are different certifications and associations for home inspectors, right?
That's right, yeah. I'm certified by ASHI, American Society of Home Inspectors. There's INTERNACHI, and we're all required to take national testing. Each state has their own regulation as well, whether you need licensing or what that entails, and then continued education. I am a part of a franchise. I'm a franchise owner, and our franchise has training that we do on a regular basis, and they put us under training when we first started and things like that. So there's lots of layers of education that just really opens our eyes and gives us that trained view on all of these systems that we're evaluating. Yeah.
So in your experience so far, what have you found to be some of the advantages of Pillar to Post, the franchise you were talking about?
Yeah, we are actually the largest home inspection company in North America, spanning the U.S. and Canada. So our resources are immense in terms of training, number one, continued education, and then working with real estate partners. We have been at the forefront technologically, trying to modernize the home inspection experience, and I'm hoping we can talk about that a little bit today. But we're trying to furnish our clients with as much information, as much tools and resources as possible, whether that's repair estimates, whether that's just the means of moving in well. We've got a bunch of things that we're looking.
And we were talking a little bit earlier about when a buyer a home inspection is optional. So when you're buying a house, you can choose whether or not to have a inspection contingency, and you can choose whether or not to hire a home inspector. However, the National Association of Realtors recommends that every buyer gets a home inspection, even if it is optional. And there's even that thing we were talking about where there's a pamphlet for your inspection, get a home for your protection, get a home inspection, which you have to check off when you make an offer on the standard agreement of sale. So when a buyer calls you up and you go out to inspect a property, what can they expect? Are you usually on site with the potential future home buyer, or is it something that you do on your own without them?
Yeah, I am usually there with them. They're invited to come the entire time. And yes, home inspections are optional, but when we're dropping six figures on a property, we are generally looking scouring reviews on an Amazon product that costs like $15.
You're right.
And then we go drop 6 figures and we're like, it's optional. What we're doing here is just, like you said, it's a protective measure. And it means to help you be a wise consumer on something that has, again, like I said, multiple systems and things that can go wrong with each. And we're just saying, hey, there is a professional that can come and test the things and rule out major problems and teach you how to best handle this home and maintain this home, so that you're not stuck with big bills, that you are not regretting decisions because big construction, reinforcement, whatever may need to happen.
Right.
We are informing you up front about that, and you can make the best decision for yourself.
So what are some of the things that will be covered in the inspection, and then some of the things that won't?
Yeah. We have to be realistic about what a human being can do and come in a matter of about 2 to 3 hours.
Right.
And we are going to be getting top to bottom. We're trying to get in every space and evaluate the exterior siding, the roof, getting into the attic to evaluate the underside of the roof and the ventilation and insulation. We are trying to run water everywhere that we can to make sure there's no leaks. We're evaluating the electrical system in terms of the panels, the outlets throughout the home, checking for safety measures, GFCI protection, AFCI protection.
And the thing about the home inspection, it's a non-destructive inspection too. So, that's
Right.
something that the agents have to kind of also, work through. Whereas if there's a suspicion there might be mold behind the walls, is unless you get permission from that homeowner, you're not going to be able to open up the walls and look what's inside.
Yeah.
At least not on the home inspection, the initial one. So.
Yeah, hatches are often sealed, or like you said, we might see signs of moisture, but we don't know what's behind.
Right.
We have tools like an infrared camera that can sometimes detect moisture that may not be visible. But again, we are not disassembling things. We don't own you don't own the property yet, so we're just trying to look for evidence and signs that might point us to defects or issues.
So do you also do wood destroying insects and radon too?
I do, yeah. We've got a list of added services that we provide, including pest inspections, checking for termites and beetles and
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
Stuff.
What kind of is there any? What kind of insects are there in this area besides? Is it mainly termites that are the main ones you're looking for?
Yeah, mainly termites. Some of these older homes that are like 1800s will have powder post beetle infestation, and you'll notice it's like little poke marks on the wood framing, and they just kind of bore through that way. We've got carpenter bees, carpenter ants.
Yeah.
And so, there's a variety. I mean, even woodpeckers are wood destroying, but so we're looking around for just signs of of damage.
Now, you're only checking the house, so you're not going out into the yard, because the other question is, now we have this ash beetle infestation, and you might get a house and find out all the trees have to come down, but that's not really in the scope of a home inspection, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're making our rounds around the building. We're doing inspection on the home, right? But it does include like unhealthy trees to a certain degree. But I'm not inspecting like the yard per se. And so, I mean, ultimately my focus is the home and has what's going on in the property surrounding affected the building. So really I am staying, within. Is
there anything specific, any stories you can point to that you're like, man, if I wasn't here, that could have been really bad? Like I used the example earlier of the GFCI outlet. It's pretty simple, but it's not like you don't really, when you're on a showing and you're just looking at a house, you're not really testing to see if the GFCI outlets work.
Right.
And you don't really want to find out the hard way. It's no good anymore.
Sure. Yeah, we take them for granted sometimes, but they're there for that one time where water gets in contact with it, and people can die. They really can from electricity, right? So, I mean, I've inspected properties where it's maybe it's in Philadelphia and they've fully finished this basement. This place looks beautiful, but what I'm seeing is that they didn't finish it in a way that protects those finishes. Like from the stone foundation wall to the drywall, they're just touching each other, right? And there should be a moisture barrier of some kind in case those stone walls, which are prone to seepage, allow water onto all your finishes in your drywall, right? And so I've seen termites develop and mold develop in a matter of months in those situations.
In a situation like that, how would you even know that there's no moisture barrier? Was it something that you could see and then you could and then suspect that was being continued throughout the wall, or was it something like, could you tell from looking at it?
Yeah, so sometimes where pipes are going through, or there's some appliance like near the wall, they have to cut around it, right? And then you can or there's a window, sometimes you can see past down that way. And if you're just seeing the stone wall, insulation, and drywall, I mean, all that is high potential for getting wet, and I've seen it happen many times. The moisture barrier is not always required by the township, but it's something that I'm telling my buyers, like, you just need to know that it's there or not, and the vulnerability that's there, and do you want to take on that risk? I'm just letting you know that it has the potential for something going on, and it's not something you would think about, unless you were trained and have experienced the negative side of it.
I try to remind, I'll try to remind buyers, it's like when you go to see a house, you have that showing and you're there for like 30, maybe an hour, but usually it's like 20, 30 minutes. And then you have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to make an offer on this property. Yeah. You might get a second showing. You might be able to get access to it later if you waive the inspection contingency, but really you're not really spending any real time with the property that you're about to make that huge investment on without having some sort of inspection. And when you do, you might as well bring in someone who's a professional at it.
Yeah, and you just don't have the time to open every closet, right? Whatever, all that stuff. So, I mean, I've gone in $900,000 homes, and the plumbing stack is like dripping all this gunk all over in a tiny closet in the corner of a basement that, everybody's wandering around the basement. There's like 50 buyers wandering this showing, and nobody opened the door until inspector comes over and checks it. We're evaluating stucco services, which can be an expense. We've seen over the past couple decades like that installed improperly or not maintained and caused major water damages.
Well, how much can you evaluate from stucco? Because don't you have to basically destroy, like, don't you have to, what is it?
To drill into it.
Create the holes, go like a non-destructive inspection.
So again, we're saying, are there any signs pointing to the fact that you may need to evaluate what's behind and do that destructive test where you drill behind and see the material? And if I'm seeing cracking, like I actually did an inspection recently where they had a stucco report from 2 or 3 years ago. And I was saying that's all good and well. I'm going to do my inspection today, and I'm just going to let you know if I see like signs that it has opened up again, and those repairs may need touching up again. And at the end of it, I said you should get a new stucco full inspection by a specialist. And when they did, they were told like all of these windows need to be pulled because it has opened up again, water has gotten behind, and so they were ready to just take that 3-year-old report and say like, this is so recent, it should be fine. But it wasn't. Not my word, the specialist's word. Right. Like I said, there were cracks here and there, and I was just like, will you please double check on this, And so we were able to, help them there, and actually the seller in that case was willing to replace those windows and do the work it took, and it was really neat to see that collaboration there and just the honest understanding that this is a large item that could compromise this transaction, and the sellers were gracious. They were understanding and willing to make it right.
Well, in this market, it's kind of nice because the seller will probably be walking away with equity, so they can do stuff like that. Which is one of the reasons why you don't want to skip it, because there's a lot of people who were skipping inspections for a while, especially when you had these multiple offer situations. Right. And there were people who were waiving the contingencies but still doing the inspection, and there was different ways. there were different ways where people were able to negotiate that and do it the right way. There's a wrong way to do that, which is not tell the seller that you're coming back with a home inspector.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely something that you need to at least need to consider.
Yeah, and what I just say in regards to that is, like, I get it. I get the market and the difficulty that everybody's experiencing right now, and the low inventory and all. And if you have to waive contingencies, I get it.
Yeah.
But to skip it completely and say, like, now that I own this home, like, I'm going to live under the demands of the seller previous and still waive my inspection like eternally.
Yeah.
Like, you can waive it, but then you don't have to skip it altogether. Like,
right.
You can have somebody come out and give you that information, so that it sets you up well to handle things. And if you need some repairs in the beginning, it is, and you knew that risk when you waived, right? But yeah, so if you have to waive, just don't skip completely. Was kind of my response to that, because we can come after settlement.
Right. Yeah. So outside of that, what are some of the other general benefits of getting a home inspection?
Yeah, so we talked protection. I also am big on information, right? It's just learning and being aware of what you have and where things are located, the ages of things. Are they on the way out? Are they in good shape? And so, information is power. I think, it can go a long way.
Yeah, especially for first-time home buyers. So I've worked with a lot of first-time home buyers in my career, and when you're renting or you're in an apartment building, you really don't need to know anything about it. You don't need to know about the systems or how the plumbing works. And that's kind of like a learning process when you buy that first house. Yeah. When you're realizing where everything's going, when you flush the toilet, or where everything's coming from when you plug something in the outlet.
Yeah.
Basic stuff like the water shutoff, the gas shutoff, stuff like that is pretty important.
Yeah, you don't need it till you need it. Sometimes.
Exactly.
So like that one time that it's really important that somebody in the property knows it, and you have taken on ownership when you're purchasing a home. And so we want to help you fully own it. Own it. It's yours. You got to know it, that because it's going to come back to you. Well,
I think the word that you're trying to avoid is it's now your responsibility.
It is what
and
I'm
people
saying.
realize they're like, oh wait, what's going on? Why do I have to do all this? Like, how is this my fault? And you're like, well, you bought the house. It's yours now. It's your responsibility. And that's something as an agent when I'm talking to people. That going from that transition of being a renter to a homeowner can be, depending on the person, depending on where they're coming from, it can be a little bit of a learning experience. At worst, it's a shock, but for everyone, it's going to be some sort of learning experience.
Right.
The guy who buys a house and now his basement's flooded. Yeah. And looking for people to blame. Was it the seller and the agent and the home inspector and this and that? And it's like, well, honestly, this is just how this is life. When you were renting, you didn't have to worry about a basement flooding. When you own a house, you get the upsides, which is equity, control of your property, but you also have the responsibilities and the liabilities that come alongside with that. Getting that home inspection and having that information helps you make that decision and know what you're getting yourself into.
Well said. I mean, and my role, in which I love what I do, because we're trying to minimize liability, minimize the risk of homeownership, and really give you the peace of mind that, look, this guy went and triple checked, he went everywhere. I saw him. I was there with him, and he gave me a long report and captured pictures of all this stuff, and is willing to hang his hat on the report that he did. And I should be able to move in feeling really positive about how this home is going to hold up for me, or I know who to turn to now to make it right. Yeah. And it's key. It's huge. I mean, and it should make you feel better about this endeavor that you have decided to go into, homeownership.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
all right, man. Well, if anyone's interested, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, my business phone number is 610-836-2206. I have a website, andyfritchey.pillartopost.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You can email me, andy.fritchey@pillartopost.com. Accessible a lot of ways.
Awesome, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, man.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.